Hello, we're going to do a short video talking about Google Forms, how to use them, primarily for doing quizzes. So there'll be some functionality we skip over. If you wanted to use a Google Form for collecting information, for evaluations and things, the focus of this is not really on that. This is for positing questions to students, for initial assessments, or for just checkpoints along their progress. So why is it a good tool? Why we should use it? We'll look at a few of the idiosyncrasies because of the fact that we're running this through a domain. So I'm logged into my Community Learning West.net account up here, you can see. So there's a few differences because of that, and how that links into Google Classroom, which we'll talk briefly about later. I'll do a separate video for some of those elements. Right, so I'm currently in Google Drive, drive.google.com. We can go directly to Forms. Personally, I like to have a Forms folder. So I've gone into my Google Drive, gone to my Forms folder. I've got a big old mass of forms in here. It's just a little bit easier for me to find particular forms if I'm looking for something. You can also see these green ones. So the purple ones are forms. The green ones are Excel type files that have been created to store the information from forms. So that's something we'll certainly be going through. So the first thing we're going to do, so drive.google.com, find somewhere to store your forms. So you can always right click, create new folders. And I'm going to go right click down to Google Forms. You've got two options here, a blank form and a blank quiz. They're both the same. So we're just going to pick Google Form, blank form. And here we are with our blank form. So like all the other Google products, this will save continuously. So as soon as I change what's in here, it will come up in the top corner. If I hit question there, you'll see it's all changes saved to Drive, so we're saving constantly. First thing I'm going to do is give it a name. So we'll call this Maths Test. So that's the name of the form itself, or what the form says. However, the name of the actual file, when you're looking for it, is up here and it's currently entitled. If I click on that, after doing this, it will just pull that through for me, which is very handy. Right. First we're going to do is just check settings. So under settings, we're going to turn this into a quiz. There we go, that was easy. So that's the same as if I just selected a quiz afterwards. All a quiz means is it's a set of questions where we can give an amount of points per question. Under settings, we'll run through very quickly. Release grades, so you choose when people get their answer. Locked mode is for people running proper tests, proper invigilations with specific equipment which we don't really have access to. Just some more settings around how and when they get information back. Responses. So by default, I always suggest not turning on collect email addresses. We'll talk about when and how you would do that later. Generally, don't do it because it's going to make it harder for your learners to access the form. We generally see this being used, creating a quick, easy form, dropping it into a Padlet, and away you go. Nice and easy. We're also going to turn off the restrict to users in Learning Community West. So if you weren't logged in with a Community Learning West account, this wouldn't be here. If you were logged into your own personal Gmail, it wouldn't suggest this. So I'm going to turn that off. And then some other stuff around defaults and how the forms look. You can ignore all those if you want. So back to questions. Now we just build our set of quiz questions for our learners. So title, description, so you can put something in here about, this is for session 3, this is what we're doing. And then we've got questions to add. So as you click on them, they expand. We can grab this little top bar here and swap the positioning around so you can drag things around if you get things wrong. First question, what is your name? Or what is your email? Some way for you to determine who people are. And then we add the questions in. So when you click on a question, this little bar will jump down alongside, and this lets us add in more questions. It also lets us add in import from other places. We're not going to cover that. Titles and descriptions, which is basically a copy of this. So if you want to explain the new section. We've got images and video. So it would literally add in a big block, let's say, from either Google images or from videos. I'm looking for it, I go, find the exact thing. Oh, Veritasium video, like a bit of Veritasium, let's put that in. And so that's going to be a video that your students could then watch before answering some questions, potentially about the video. You put in, watch this. And then the last thing here, which is quite useful, is sections. So add a section in as a way of breaking up. Just move up slightly so you can see what I'm doing. It's a way of you adding in a page break, so they're not getting all the questions in once. If it's a really long set of questions and you've got something about algebra and something about fractions, you could maybe break it up using some sections. And you just carry on adding in more questions underneath. So section 2's got a bunch of questions. Nice and easy, not a lot to say about that. Questions themselves, a little bit more involved, because you've got a lot of different types. So short answer is like this, what is your name? You can mark short answers. So if I was to make this a short answer, click on the answer key to give it its 1 point or however many points I want. I then have to choose what the correct answer is for them to actually be marked as correct. It can be a bit fiddly because you're trying to get exactly, it's not going to look at it using AI, and well, not yet anyway, and decide if it's correct. It's just going to go either you typed it exactly like that or you didn't. So it's not fantastic. I think Paragraph doesn't give you any options. No. So you can give them some feedback, but you can't actually mark it in any way. Multiple choice, checkboxes and drop down are all broadly similar. So a multiple choice question gives you a bunch of options. It does give you a nice extra option of having an image per question. So some random thing to search for, cats. I like cats. So we just play a cat, and this one could be a cat. Just so you can see what this looks like. Do like a tabby. Oh, I did the same one twice. Oh no, there it is. Let's have 3. 3 lovely cats. You're cute. Okay. So, actually I'll show you now. So at the top, at any point, if you want to see what you're doing, I'm going to scroll this down. We've got these menu options at the top. Let's move across there. So this one here, preview, shows me what it's going to look like. I can see now that my untitled question has a list of cats to choose from. Very nice. So it's a way of making things a little bit more visually interesting than a big long list of questions. So that's very nice, and we can choose an answer key and say that one, no, maybe that one actually. As you can see as well, I can pick multiple things with checkboxes. It doesn't mean they have to pick multiple things. With a checkbox, they can only pick one thing, but both of these options would be correct. But I'm going to leave it as just that one. Done. I'm going to say, which is the best cat? So they can answer that there. And I've got the answer key. You can see I've ticked it. It's green. This is the one they need to select. All these quiz questions as well, when you select this answer key, and it gives you the selections, you get answer feedback. And that basically has to give feedback based on incorrect and correct answers. And this is a great way for unattended learning. You can give them a bit of feedback. It takes a long time to do this, but it's worthwhile. Everyone gets the feedback straight away. Definitely the cutest. I can mistype that. You need to change it. So you can say, no, number 3 is definitely the cutest. Correct answers, you got it right. And you can give them links and videos. So if you think, well, actually, if I've got this wrong, maybe you should watch this video again, or maybe go to BBC Bite Size, or go to this other resource. Very, very useful tool. And you can see on here, look, what the feedback is for each one. So that's very nice. I'll hit done. Add another question in. So checkboxes is exactly the same. So a bunch of options. The difference here is I can mark multiples being correct, but the user can actually tick multiple things as being correct, whereas with a checkbox, you'll know a radio button like this, they can only select one option. So it depends what kind of question you're asking. Back again. What else do we have? We have drop downs. Drop downs, incredibly similar. They just appear like that instead. So very handy if there's a very long list, like you're picking from a set of names or something else, a month of the year or something. Very handy. But it's the same thing, it just looks different. We have a file upload. We won't cover that. That is a way if people are logged in for them to send files to you. Linear scale. Linear scale is just going to create a series of radio buttons and ask you to select a point on there. So it might be, what are the odds of something? And you select low for the one end and high for the other. You can select up to 10 on the scale, and you'll get something like this. They can choose a point on the scale as their answer. What else do we have? We have multiple choice grid and checkbox grid. So again, the same as multiple choice and checkbox, except this time you've got rows. So you can. This is great for evaluations. How did you find the catering? All our courses have catering, obviously. Well, that's not very good. How was the teaching overall? And then, so those are the questions, and the rows are what responses can be given. So in this case, you go great, okay, terrible. I can have as many of those in as I wanted, up to common sense. Have a look at that. You see, you've got a nice little grid of questions, and I can only answer one different thing per line. If I changed it to a checkbox grid, I'd be able to have multiple selections per line. So not very good for this instant. You can't see it very well. Not very good for this particular example, but could be useful for different ones. More of like, which of these things have you done, or how. Like checking people's experience with things, you might want to use a checkbox grid. And date and time, you can collect date and time. Not very useful for quizzes, but there it is there. I won't get into it now because it's too involved. I'll just pick one that you can actually see on the screen. That's not a good choice. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that, right. For each question, you can click this little button in the bottom right and have go to section based on answer. So you need sections. This is these sections here. And what you can say is, if somebody said that this was the cutest cat, you can send them to a different section. You can skip questions over. Could be very useful for certain circumstances, but it can get very complicated. So just so you know, that's there. So that's broadly speaking how we build the quiz. How do we get the quiz used? So the way we do that is quite simple. At the top we've got send, brings up this dialog box. We have email, we have embed. The one we want is link, this little link one here. It will say link. It gives us this big long load of gobbledygook. We can shorten it to be a shorter length of gobbledygook and hit copy. Now that link can be just emailed straight out to a student. It can be placed onto Padlet, put into Google Classroom, whatever you want. So it's really, really handy. What we're going to do though is we're going to test it. So I would always suggest testing these things to see how they work before you do anything else. And to do that, in Google Chrome, where I am now, there's a little button here at the top right, 3 dots, and I'm going to choose New Incognito Window, which, oh, my green screen started to fall over then, leaning back. It basically just doesn't save any cookies from the previous session. It doesn't remember who that person is. So it's a good way of checking what will happen for your learners because they're not logged in. So can they access the quiz? Under Edge browser, if you've got one of the council computers, it's called in private browsing. So I'm going to choose that. You can see I've gone incognito. And I'm going to Control V and paste that gobbledygook string in, hit enter, and you can see this is what the test looks like for me. So I'm going to say my name is James. I think, oh, that's definitely the cutest cat. Answer the other questions, watch my video, hit next. No idea what I was doing there. Hit submit. I can view the score from here. Oops, I accidentally clicked. This is just one of these irritating things that Google Forms does. I must have clicked at some point into the name, and it thinks that it's a quiz question, so you have to like re-add it in again. You can't sort of switch off when it's a quiz or not. Just irritating. But you can see I've got green on there, and I've got red ticks, red crosses. Sorry. I've got feedback. It's quite nice. Look, so it says feedback. Definitely the cutest. I was correct. I could have been sent to a rehabilitation camp. It was the wrong one. Down there, very happy. I've got my overall score at the top. So going back now to my quiz as a tutor, you can see I've got responses 1 up here. So I can see that one person, James, has done all these things. I can see graphs and useless stuff about it. The really good bit here is this little button here called Link to Sheets. If I click that, it says create a new spreadsheet called Maths Test Responses. Sounds good. Hit create, and it will automatically build a spreadsheet and send me straight to it. And this spreadsheet, if we go remember back to the start in Google Drive, it's now created the sheet in here. Put it to reload it. There you are, maths test. So I've now got my maths test form, and next to it I've got my maths test Excel type sheet. This is the right one. And you can see at this time, so we got this score, this was their name, and this is what they selected. Oops. Pretty handy. So all your learners would be here. What if we don't want to do that, and we don't want to have people building up over time? Well, we can go in on the 3 dots. We can delete all responses. Very handy. The other thing we can do is we can make a copy. Oh, you can't see that. Let's get back to here. Top right. Make a copy at the top, and it will create a copy of the form. So you've got a fresh form that you can issue out to a different group and link to a different sheet. Very useful. And it's that quick. And that's pretty much all of it. So Google Classroom, if we were to drop it into there, there is nothing stopping you from having a having us. So I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I can't talk and think at the same time. It's just too much. Let's go there. I've got my example classroom here. I can go into classwork. I can create a new assignment. Take this test, and I can attach from Google Drive. Don't know why that. I never understand why it says recent and it's not the most recent thing at the top. Very strange. I can select my maths test I just created. I can search for it at the top, and I can plop that straight in. Ignore this locked mode on Chromebooks. That's that thing about them having to take the test and not being able to cheat and get off it. Grade importing. So grade importing is back to that question around collecting email addresses and restricting to Community Learning West. So if you wanted to use this functionality, you would have to speak to the admin team. We would have to set you up with all of your learners having an account on Community Learning West. We can do that. It's obviously more work for us. It's not more work for you, but it is there's a bit of work around teaching those students what they're allowed to do, making sure we remove them from the system when the course is finished. But if you really want to make use of this functionality, it is there. The reason it's very good is once I've assigned that test to the group, they can go in, they can take the test. When they do, their grades will get pulled in automatically. So you'd have all the names down the left hand side, and you'd have all the scores with no input from you whatsoever. And so you could have a test at the start, test halfway through, test at the end, and you could see their scores going across. It's very nice. But if you're using Padlet, or if you don't want to do that, you can just go in, create an assignment, add the quiz, and let's just add it back in so you can see what I'm talking about. I can add in that same maths test. I can just turn off grade importing, and they can just take the test, and I just don't have the grades saved in here. Simple as that. Otherwise, just drop them to Padlet, drop them somewhere else. Works great. So that is a very quick run through of Google Forms and Google Classroom functionality. You can use Microsoft Forms as well. They're not quite as good, they're not quite as useful in terms of creating quizzes. I would say that the general is, if it's a business task, if it's a task where you're collecting private information, you're collecting anything more than just who are you, and then a piece of work product for a course, you want to use Microsoft Forms. So if I'm sending out an evaluation, if I'm sending out questionnaires to students, I probably want to use Microsoft Forms because that's protected and that's how it's supposed to be done. If, however, it's very much a teaching tool, then we've got dispensation to use Google Forms, and it works a lot better. So any questions, please ask me. Thank you very much.